Really, to me, Camille, what success truly is being able to live the type of lifestyle that you want, because you can have all those fancy things. You can have like the fancy car, the fancy house, the fancy clothes, the fancy purse. But if you're like constantly on your phone all the time, or if you're not being the mom that you want to be, or if you're like causing your body physical stress and like your health is suffering, your marriage is suffering, like those things are not worth it.
So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Hey friend, so grateful that you're here today and so excited to talk to you about my interview with Kelli France, who is a dear friend and a huge example of what a mindset of positivity can do. Now, Kelli hasn't had a clear path of success from the beginning to where she is now. She's had a lot of ups and downs. And throughout this episode, she's very raw and honest and real and funny. And that's what I love about Kelli. I think you're really going to love this episode. And keep in mind that as you're listening, there are so many different paths and different answers to the questions you might be having right now. And it doesn't mean that those paths that you're taking right now are the wrong path. It's the right path for getting to where you want to end up. And whether that's the same path of consistently showing up and doing your same work and your same effort day by day, great. If it's repositioning or refocusing or redirecting, that's okay too. And I think that this story that Kelli shares with us today will help you to see that it's not always about knowing what or where you're going to end up, but choosing that next best step, even if it's possibly the wrong one, and being okay with that, being curious about that. So let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Call Me CEO. And today is a happy day because Kelli France is with us. She's one of the most positive people I know. Listen to her. She's already singing in the camera. Or in the camera. You can't see her. You can only hear her. But she is the confidence queen. She is the leader of the Fearless Girl Club, which is a book club as well as a podcast. And I promise you, if you're not following her online, you want to. She has such a positive, wonderful energy. She's a mother of 4. Is that right?
Yes.
And she used to live in Utah. Now she's in California, beach loving and doing incredible things. But her journey started at a very interesting place where she was on food stamps and was able to build her income to over 7 figures regularly. And she keeps on building and inspiring. And it's all about women empowerment. So Kelli, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Camille, for having me.
It's so fun because we've been trying to do this for a while and you are a busy woman. So thank you for taking the time. I mean, I know you just bought an investment property in California and you're just doing so many fun things. Your oldest has moved out of the home, but she's back now. Tell us a little bit about where you are, what's going on.
So yeah, we have a full house right now with 3 teenagers and a 10-year-old. So it's a party. I joke that my kids are like salsa. I have hot, medium, mild, and pico. They're spicy, but fun. And yeah, we're loving Southern California and we're all just so busy right now. Yeah. Cause we just bought an Airbnb that we are having so much fun decorating. Think like Palm Springs retro, colorful vibes. It's going to be a dream. So yeah, that's
I want to come visit. Yeah. Sounds amazing.
Yeah. And it's like so close to the beach, but yeah. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Very cool. Now, I don't know that most people would know this listening to this, or even people who have followed you or who have followed me, but way back when Kelli was working as a photographer, also doing fashion and style. And for a short time, she contributed as a writer to my blog, My Mommy Style. This was like years and years ago.
Yes.
But then you made a big step and you joined Color Street as a leader when it first started. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Color Street, they are nail strips that are just like paint, but you can do them anywhere you are. They're super convenient.
And
Mhm.
it was a brand new company. And Kelly, this is what's so crazy, is that my sister and I were blogging together at the time. We both knew and loved Kelly. And we heard about Color Street because Kelly just announced on Facebook, hey, I'm doing this thing, come join me. And my sister and I talked about it. We're like, I don't know, like MLMs, like, is that really a good idea? Should we stick with the course we're on? And there have been more than one occasion where we're like, we should have just joined her. What were we thinking? Because she is like done incredible things. So I'm going to pass this baton to her. And Kelly, please tell us where you were, how you made that leap, and how you decided to join an MLM and what that journey looked like.
Okay. Well, so I've always been kind of a serial entrepreneur. It started way before, multi-level marketing, where I was a photographer, like when my husband was going to law school and I had a new baby at home, my oldest, and I was bored because he was constantly studying for law school. So I took a class about photography and started taking pictures of her and then of friends and family. And then I was like, I'm going to make this a business, and just had so much fun with, running a business and learning new things. And then it turned into, I got my teaching degree. And so I actually love to teach, but I never used it except for, in my online teaching ventures. And one of those was called Fancy Pants Academy. And it's where I mentored photographers. Then that turned into starting a business with my husband, where we had like an online photography school and magazine. Then we sold that, and I eventually that's when I joined my first network marketing company that was based around fitness, and learned a lot on that journey. But I got mono, and it was kind of hard to preach fitness when I couldn't really do it.
This is bringing back so many memories, because I remember that now, watching you do the Beachbody, which was amazing. You're so magnetic, and you really did create such a core, wonderful group around you. And I remember you getting mono, and that was a huge dive. And I remember you being like, I don't know if this is this thing, if I'm going to stay on this path.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about how you were feeling in that time, because that was a big transition for you.
Yeah, that was rough. And honestly, like I started just not feeling it anymore. Like I don't know, I couldn't fake it anymore. Like it just wasn't aligning with me. And I just remember feeling like it's time to make a change. But it's hard to make changes, big changes like that, and to leave an amazing community of women. But I felt like that was the right thing. I even had a dream about my next step that I needed to take. And so I was like, all right, we're going to do this thing. But it's scary, right? It's scary, like totally pivoting. And
what was your dream? I'm just like, tell me more. What is that? What was your dream?
I actually had a dream that I needed to join a different multi-level marketing company. And so I did. It was LipSense. And so I quit Beachbody. I joined LipSense, only did it for a couple of months. And then I was like, this isn't for me either. And after that, I was like, I'm never going to do another direct sales company again. Like I'm never going to do network marketing again. Here's the thing about never say never. Like every time I've said never, it's like, God has a sense of humor, and he's like, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I started this, I don't know if you remember this, but I started I bought a chic graphic tee company.
Yes.
Called Style Lately.
Yes.
Bought that, tried to do retail for a while, made zero money. Had no idea what I was doing. I don't know why. I think it looked really glamorous, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And so I wasn't really making money. My husband was kind of hating his job too. And we were struggling financially, living paycheck to paycheck on, pretty close to poverty level for a family of 6. And then a neighbor from my previous neighborhood, when I lived in my mom's basement, that was one of the nevers. I said, I'm never moving back to Utah. And then we felt inspired and kind of prompted by God that we needed to move into my mom's basement and pay off some debt and stuff. And so we moved into my mom's 2-bedroom basement.
Wow.
And our kids all shared a room, and the baby slept under the stairs like Harry Potter. And then my husband and I slept in a room which doubled as my office. And we were all in my mom's basement apartment and did that for 2 years.
Wow.
While we ran this online photography and magazine called Chic Critique. So that's kind of, so we're doing that in Utah. And then I kind of was like, I don't know. Then I felt that's when I joined, Beachbody, did that for like 2.5 years, got mono, did the t-shirt company. And then my neighbor from that, then we moved to a different neighborhood. And then my neighbor was like, hey, there's this other company that's starting soon. And it's really fun, inexpensive, and girly. And I was like, oh, and she said, and I'm working really hard to pay off some medical school debt. And like, I was like, yeah, that's relatable. We have like thousands and thousands of dollars in law school debt. So I was like, I'm just going to try it and see what happens.
Why not?
Right? Like, that's the thing, is that I was like, let's just try it, and my goal was, I just want to think, I just actually had this on my vision board, this quote. It said, I just want to not have to think twice about adding guacamole. And that's where I wanted to be. I was so sick of scraping by, saying no to my kids for literally everything. And so I just jumped in, and I recruited 25 people in 5 days, and we hit the ground running, and they recruited several people, and we just we ran with it. And I had big goals because here's the thing, Camille, I had seen friends in other companies make 6 and 7 figures. So I knew it was possible. I had seen people I know break that glass ceiling, and I knew that was possible. And so I was like, let's go, and I knew that if I really put in the time and effort in the beginning, if I worked, I think there's a quote that says
work like no one else so you can live like no one else.
Yes, that's it. And so that was running through my head, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to work like no one else so I can live like no one else. And now it's been like such a huge blessing, because we were able to, here we are in Southern California, and had so many blessings since then.
Tell us, Kelly, don't hold back. Tell us, this is awesome.
Able to pay off all my husband's law school loans, just so many blessings. I was able to pay for LASIK, so that I could see because of this, and then just having this amazing community, being able to travel. I mean, that's one of the great things about direct sales, is almost every company has some sort of program where if you work hard, you can earn those trips, And so that's the thing, I worked hard to earn those things and to teach my team to do the same. And so that's, there's just been, it's funny because my kids were my mom or my daughter used to be she used to have to ask me to hey, can we, get a Prime Video on Prime? Can we check out rent a $1.99 video? And I'd be like, no, we can't afford that. And I remember her asking me and me saying, yeah, you can. And she was shocked, oh, wow. So it's kind of funny, what your kids consider, you've made it. And then my other son was he's I always thought that having microwave popcorn was what rich people do. And I was like, well, son, we've made it then. We can afford microwave popcorn.
Yeah.
It's the little things and the big things, of course. But yeah, really to me, Camille, what success truly is being able to, besides all the physical outward things, it's really just being able to live the type of lifestyle that you want, because you can have all those fancy things. You can have like the fancy car, the fancy house, the fancy clothes, the fancy purse. But if you're like constantly on your phone all the time, or if you're not being the mom that you want to be, or if you're, you know, like causing your body physical stress and like your health is suffering, your marriage is suffering, like those things are not worth it. So you really have to, I think it's super important to kind of sit down and define what success means to you and not what the world says success is.
I love that.
Success is what you decide it is, and then you work towards that. And for me, it's been like making a full-time income on part-time hours. And that's something that I've worked really hard to do so that I am not constantly like in hustle mode.
Yeah. How long do you think it's been, or it took, and maybe, I don't know where you would quantify where you are right now, but how long do you think it was that you were like nose to the grindstone, putting in all that really hard work so that you could get to the place where you are now, where you can take a step back and not be so intense with your workload? Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I'll be honest. Like, I feel like I've worked part-time since day one and I still work part-time. Like I just have set work hours and I'm like, these are my work hours. This is when I work. And when I'm done, I'm done. Like, and if you are pretty like hardcore about those, especially when you have kids,
mm-hmm.
and you're like, these are my work hours, and they don't have to, your work hours don't have to look like my work hours, right? Your work hours might be during, mine are all, like I said, all my kids are in school. So those work hours for me are going to be while they're at school. If you have young kids, it might be nap time. It might be during preschool. It might be when your kids are in bed. But just setting these work hours and then being very intentional during those work hours. It's almost like I have my checklist. I've got my daily tasks on a very small Post-it note, on a 3x3 Post-it note that show me what I need to be focusing on during those hours. You can really move the needle if you're very intentional with your time and focus on those income producing activities and don't get sucked into the fluff,
Yeah. Oh, it's so easy too.
I was going to say, I do think, because I have been a serial entrepreneur, I feel like you really have to put in a solid amount of effort for a solid 2 years. Like mm-hmm. I've noticed, because we've moved a lot too. We've lived in like several different states. And every time we moved, I noticed it took me about 2 years to really get my business up and going to where it started gaining momentum. And I started getting like word of mouth where people start coming to you. But at the beginning, there's a lot of like foundational stuff that you've got to do to really build your business. And then you'll start getting that momentum where you don't feel like you're working so hard for people to just, to find you or to get the results that you're wanting. But I really think it takes a solid 2 years. And here's the thing. Most people aren't willing to put in 2 years, like if I'm totally blunt with you and your listeners, it's like, are you willing to consistently put in that time and effort for 2 solid years sometimes without the results that you want, sometimes without the pay, the income, so that's why it's important to like find something that you really have to have 3 C's to have, I feel like, momentum and success, whatever that is to you in your business. And that is confidence in yourself and in your, whatever it is you're doing, confidence in the product that you're selling, confidence in the service that you're offering. So that's number 1. Number 2 is commitment. Because like I said, if it takes a solid 2 years to really build up that momentum, you got to be pretty committed to something for 2 years. And then consistency, showing up every day, and just doing and it doesn't have to be every day for like a ton of hours. It can be every day for 30 minutes, doing a power half hour, but to me, that's really those are the keys that I've noticed. Those are the patterns I've noticed to really get results in your business and your life.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love those 3 C's. Would you say for those times that you felt stuck, or that you have people who have been a part of your team that feel stuck, how do you encourage them to pick up with momentum when they're feeling like maybe it's not worth it?
Yeah. I think that so I'm a word nerd. I think that when you're in a funk, you got to add 2 fun words back. You got to add fun back into take the fun out of funk. And you got to do the fundamentals. Go back to those basics of your business that you did at the very beginning, because it is hard to be consistent those first, when you're doing kind of the same stuff every day, right? It's like, oh, this is kind of boring. If you make it fun, put the fun back in it, add a fun, I always tell my team, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So how can you make it more fun? Maybe that means you're collaborating with other people. Maybe that means you're teaching someone the skill that you have now mastered after a couple of years.
If you're listening to this episode right now and thinking, what is my purpose? What is my why? Please go to my website, camillewalker.co, and take the free quiz of learning what your work from home personality is, and the resource of finding your why and your purpose, a 5-day process for free at camillewalker.co, or you can actually find it at my lifestyle website at mymommystyle.com. Either way, please connect with me online at Instagram. You can find me there at camillewalker.co or at Call Me CEO podcast. Let's keep listening.
Maybe it just means like creating cute graphics. Maybe it means creating, usually I think for me, fun has some sort of creative element, whether that is creating a spreadsheet, which I don't love, but maybe if you're a left brain and you love spreadsheets, that might be fun for you. For me, I actually love creating systems, that not only I can reuse, but that my team, can use as well. So processes like that. So I think just finding a way to add the fun back to it, and then going back to the basics, going back to your why. Why did I start this? What are some of those things that I did at the beginning that I need to continue doing now? And because I think at the beginning of anything, there's that novelty, right? And so adding some novelty back into your business is going to make it more fun too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think so true for anything that we're pursuing, whether it's education, our business, our relationships. It's like going back to those fundamentals of your why and what got you excited about what you were doing years ago or however long it's been. But I agree with you. I think it's 2 to 3 years for most businesses that you have to just commit to it and think, this is a process and a journey. And that makes me curious for your journey, because this journey in particular, after going through many, many things that didn't quite go as you would have hoped, or, redirections, right. What was it with Color Street that you stopped and thought, this is it? I've done it. What was that moment like? And when was it? Because I just think you're such a good example of that, of, going down paths that weren't quite the right fit and having to redirect and having failure and all of those things. What was that moment?
Well, here's the thing that people think oh, you had an overnight success. But like I said, I've had all these other journeys that were building on. They were not, I think people look at failure as this bad thing. I have a different perspective on failure. I look at failure as feedback. I try not to take it personally. I'm like, what can I learn from this? And I think of it not as a stumbling block, but as a stepping stone. So this is just a stepping stone that's going to get me to the next best thing, the next level, So I tell my team, you got to fail it till you nail it. And so for me, I think it was all the failures that had piled up on top of each other that got me to have momentum in this current business, it was all the social media posts from the past that built up to this. So it wasn't like this overnight success. It wasn't this luck. It was years of being consistent on social media, of, showing up and learning things and applying them and trying to improve on them. And that was really, why this particular thing worked.
And good timing.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Good preparation, good timing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it.
So when was that moment? Taking it back to that question. You're good.
Well, I mean, I would just say when I just, there was so much momentum. It was like, whoa, all these, wow, I just recruited 25 people in 5 days. Like, that's insane. And then wow, I'm rank advancing after rank advancing. You know what I mean? It was like, I was starting to see results from these seeds I had planted months and years ago, so just seeing those results. But again, people get so focused on results. And for me, I get excited about the action. Good job, me. I just finished, sending that email. Good job, me. I just finished doing that post on social media. So it's not necessarily the result that I put my emphasis on, but it's the action that eventually gets the result,
Which is such a good focus, because that's something that you consistently can have control over.
Yes.
Is the action you're taking, not necessarily the result, because all of us could take the exact same action, and given a certain circumstance or thing, it could turn out differently. There's no guarantee, but with the action, you have control over that. So that's so powerful.
Yeah. And eventually you will get results, Again, if you are committed and consistent and confident in what you're doing and who you are, eventually the spaghetti will stick. You know what I mean?
I love it. So now that you're moving into, just recently in the last year, you've launched a new podcast. It's called The Fearless Girl, which is all about kicking that inner mean girl and embracing that confidence that lies within us. And I cannot tell you how often I've received messages or DMs where confidence really is, I think, the biggest hurdle that women, if not women, all people, that it's, I think there's so much of a mirror and a watching of other people now, that confidence is something more than ever that people need help with, because we're just in this quoted comparisonitis, if you will, from that book. We're all looking around what are they doing? And what does their life look like? And am I doing it right? And is this, who am I? So talk to me about how you leaned into that and now have started this momentum of creating confidence in women. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I started teaching women about running a photography business, I think one of my strengths is I see so much potential in people. I'm like, oh my gosh, here's what you could do. I feel like I'm a visionary. I can see a vision of your future, your future business, your future potential, all that. I have good vision like that. And I saw all these women's potential, and I was like, hey, if you do, if you just do these things, your business could explode. You could have all this success and results. And I just kept noticing all these women getting in their own way and just talking to themselves negatively. And I was like, ugh, I just want to shake them and be like, just, treat yourself like you love yourself. And I put out a survey on social media, and I asked women to rate their confidence on a scale of 1 to 10. And I got so many women that responded, and the average number was a 5. And I was like, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that, because these are the mothers of our future,
Yeah.
These are the mothers of our future generations. These are the influencers of the world. Women, I think, have so much influence and power. And if they're thinking they're a 5, that's going to be passed on. And I I see them as a 10. And I was like, it honestly pisses me off. So I'm on a journey to change that. And honestly, like I've struggled with it too. Circumstances can really knock you down, there was a point in our, marriage when we were in our little family, when we were struggling so financially that like our church had to donate groceries to us. And my husband and I were fighting a lot because we didn't have money. That makes things really hard.
Yeah.
And so it was taking a toll on my confidence. And, I was just having like a lot of dark thoughts, and it would spiral. Like it would just start with one inner mean girl thought and then turn into another and another. And it was snowball to the point where like I was having suicidal thoughts, and I got to the point where I was just like, I'm done with this. Like, this is not serving me. I don't want to think like this anymore. And so I had to like start retraining my brain to like, first of all, recognize it. And then second of all, stop thinking like that and think better thoughts like that make me feel better and do better.
Were you able to do that on your own, or did you have therapy to help you, or what was it that was, because they say, I think it's something like 85% of our thoughts are recycled thoughts, that we very often live in our subconscious mind where we're thinking either what we've thought before or what our parents might have told us or teachers or whomever. And these thought patterns are very ingrained. So to create new thought patterns, it takes effort, and you really have to be proactive with it. So how were you able to do that for yourself?
There was no therapy. I couldn't afford therapy. Right. So
it's expensive.
It really is. And so, although
Anyway.
I will say lots of my, I have lots of family, like lots of kids in therapy now. So I'm learning a lot from that, but I do like, there is a lot of value in therapy. So if you can afford it, or if you can find a way to afford it, I highly recommend it. But for me, the answer was in my library card, and it was in those personal development books that I started reading when I was in 7th grade. I had a teacher that was kind of like this hippie, just like this happy, free-spirited woman that I just loved. And she had us all read this book. I wish I could remember the name of the book. It was this powerful book that I'm trying to see if I have it here. Anyway, the cover is hilarious. I think it was called like Go For It. And it was like, has like 80s pictures of, of kids, like, looking like they were go-getters. But I read it and I felt so empowered afterward. I was like, I can do anything, which was so great in in the trenches of middle school. Right. And so I saw it was very powerful. And then I read another one in high school, and I kind of stopped reading those for a while. And it wasn't until I got back into network marketing that I started reading personal development books again, because they really encourage that. It's kind of part of it. And that really changed things for me. Honestly, totally changed my life. Like books have changed my life. Those self-improvement books.
I love them. Yeah.
I love them too. I don't read fiction. I read nonfiction because they have truly changed my life. I've learned so much from them. And so when you're thinking those negative words, it's a great way to replace those negative words with positive words. You're putting flowers in the place of weeds in your brain, And so making that a habit has been like a game changer for me. And that's why I started my Fearless Girl book club. It's like a virtual book club for women. We have almost 5,000 women in this Facebook group and community. And it's been amazing because I started it because I wanted to hold myself accountable to actually like read at least one personal development book a month. And then I was like, I should see if the author would want to come on and talk to us. And so I asked one of the authors, and she said yes. And then it turned into asking another one. And then it's been like almost 3 years now. And we've had amazing authors. We've read amazing books from like Dave Hollis and John Acuff. And it's just been it's been really powerful in helping me overcome that inner mean girl.
I love it. And then I was like, Kelly, you should put that on a podcast. Why aren't you? Remember? And then you're like, I should do a podcast. I'm already recording it.
True. I know, I had all this content.
Yeah.
And it was like, I should share these amazing interviews. They were, incredible, like best-selling authors that were talking to us and sharing like their wisdom. And so, yeah, I turned it into a podcast. Thanks, Camille.
You're welcome. And I love that it was a matter of asking, that you thought that I feel like so often we think of these ideas and our path and our decision and the goals that we have for ourselves. And then when you thought, well, I wonder if I should just ask these authors if they might want to come and talk to us. And the answer was yes. And I think so often it's a matter of asking that those opportunities are waiting to come to us.
Totally. And like I tell my kids, if you don't ask, the answer's already no.
Yep.
But the worst they can say is no. And then you move on. Like we just take everything so personally. And it's like, we need to just get curious and be like, I wonder why they said no. Maybe I need to rewrite my email. Maybe I need to follow up again when I have a bigger group. Like we take it so personally, and it's almost always not personal.
Yeah. That's such a good perspective.
Maybe they didn't see it. Maybe they didn't see the email. So like, anyway, I just think I've noticed a lot of women take things so personally. They think it's like, it's because I'm a failure. It's because I'm a whore, they hate me. And that's rarely the case.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Tell me, with everything that you're juggling right now, your business, you're running a huge team, and that's continuing to grow. You're doing the podcast. You want to be an author. How do you balance everything? That's the age-old question. How do you do it?
Okay. Well, I have an acronym. I told you I was a word nerd. I have an acronym for you. I need to trademark my acronym. It is called Dare to Say No, DARE. The D is for delegate. The A is for automate. The R is for reevaluate. And the E is for eliminate. So that's my secret to doing it all. Sometimes it's eliminating, where it's like, is this really helping my mission? Is this moving the needle? Is this an income producing activity? Okay, no, is this just for my ego? All right, maybe then this needs to be tossed out. And then reevaluate, like, really taking a step back and looking like, why am I doing this? Do I actually want to do this? Just asking yourself those questions. I went to a workshop a week ago, a business workshop, and I mentioned an idea. I have so many ideas all the time. And I mentioned it to a friend, and she's like, well, do you want to do that? And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, we don't ask ourselves these basic questions. I was like, why didn't I think to ask myself? I'm like, actually, no, I don't. Sometimes just reevaluating, like, do I even want to do this? Sometimes we should ourselves, like we're so busy shoulding ourselves.
Yes, that's so true. And I think especially when you have minds like a serial entrepreneur would, I'm very much that way, where I can see a vision and ideas come to me and I'm like, that would be so cool, and this and that. But it's paying attention to that continual, just showing up to what you already have, right? And trying not to get too distracted by that sparkly, shiny new thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So another question I have for you is, have you invested in a mentor, and what is the best advice you've been given for furthering your business and your purpose?
Yeah, actually, I do have a business coach. I've had a business coach for many, many of my entrepreneurial shenanigans. And one of the reasons that I hired her is she helps me stay focused on my mission and not get distracted by the shiny things. Like I'll tell her, sometimes I'll tell her like these crazy ideas, and she's like, okay, let's put a pin in that. Like, let's put that on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like a month later, I'll forget about it or she'll be like, is this really like, moving the needle forward? Is this really going back to your mission of empowering women to fear less and have Beyonce-esque confidence? That's my mission statement right there. And if not, then let's maybe put a pin in it. Let's put it on the shelf. So it's been great to have a mentor do that. And plus she also keeps me accountable to some of my goals. We make it like a working hour. We work together. It's not just her like telling me what to do. It's like, let's send this email together. What do I do about this? Do you have some ideas? So it's really nice to have someone to bounce ideas off. And sometimes I cry to her too. She's kind of like my therapist.
Yeah.
If you can't afford a business mentor, pick someone that is doing what you want to do, that someone that inspires you, that you look up to, and just watch what they're doing. Success leaves clues. So pick one person that's like, yeah, they're doing what I want to do. And just kind of go watch their videos, go watch their Instagram, go watch or take a course from them. Just notice patterns, notice things that they're doing, and start, doing similar things and making it your own.
I love that. Success leaves clues. That is such a true statement, and also so empowering of like, well, having a coach or a mentor is so nice, but that isn't always the situation for everyone with whatever's going on. Mm-hmm. But you can do your own research, and you can find someone and think, okay, what are the patterns I'm seeing, and how could I make that my own and create that path of success too? Because one thing I've noticed when I've talked to the most successful women, I've done many, many interviews, is that they're always of the mentality that there's enough success for everyone, and that there's not a limit of, okay, there's only this much room for us at the top. Sorry for the rest of you. It's always this perspective of, no, we can rise together. Let me teach you how, unless they can't for whatever reason, whatever that relationship is. But it's always this feeling of plenty or excess, or having a mindset that it's available for you too, like just that mindset of excess.
Yeah. That abundance mindset.
Yes. Abundance.
Totally. Yeah. You do have to kind of like, I'm trying to think, like almost let go before you can receive. It's like, if you have too many balls in your hands, like you're literally like holding a basketball and a baseball and a football and like a beach ball, you're not able to receive new things. You know what I mean? So like sometimes you have to make space by eliminating, automating, delegating, all those things in order for the best things to come into your life. Like sometimes it means letting go. I don't know if that goes back to abundance or not, but I don't know. I think sometimes we get so tight-fisted, like our fists are closed. And we're like, I'm not going to give away my secrets, or I'm not going to, like, I don't want my we're having this competition mindset or whatever, and our fists are closed. But when we open our fists, we give freely, we share our knowledge, and we help others, then we rise by lifting others. I think that's truly how we rise. There's a really, really good book called The Go Giver. And it's so freaking good. It changed my business.
I was going to ask you what your like top 3 books would be, because I know you've read so many. So The Go Giver, we'll definitely link to that in the show notes. Do you have a quick other 2 that you'd want to share?
Yeah. I think another one is You Are a Badass.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that one has a lot of swear words. Maybe don't listen to it around your kids, but that one I've read multiple times. Super good. Gosh, there's so many, because I've read so many, but that one is one of my favorites. Another I've read like 3 times is Essentialism. And that one's just kind of like do less, but better. Like that's the whole thought there. Oh, there's one more. Oh, The Slight Edge is a really good one. Just kind of talks Slight Edge.
Oh, slight.
Yeah. It just talks about the power of like baby steps, the power of little things, how little things turn into big things. So yeah, there's so many good. I could talk all day about all the good books, but yeah, start with some of those.
Those are all great. I've read a couple of them, but I'm definitely going to add those to the list. So let our audience know. I think we could go on and on forever. I appreciate your time so much, but I know you're a busy woman. So let people know where they can find you online with your community as well as your podcast and everything else you have going on?
Yeah. So follow me on Instagram at Kelli France, KelliFrance. All my links are there to my quiz. I have find out what your confident spirit animal is, like kind of see where you're at in your confidence. That's a fun one. The book club link is there as well. If you want to join our free book club, you can watch these live, where you get to watch the live streamed interviews with these best-selling authors every month. And yeah, so start there.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kelli. I appreciate your time, and
Thanks,
you
Camille.
are amazing. I just love
Same
you.
girl, same.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that you found this episode helpful. If you can leave a review on Apple or wherever it is that you're listening to this podcast, please do so. That helps so much for the podcast to grow, or to share it with a friend on social media. Please tag me so that I can thank you, and start those conversations on DMs on Instagram. I love it more than ever when you send a personal message saying that you loved a certain episode, or that you're enjoying the show, or even if you have suggestions of someone's story who you'd like to hear. I am all ears. So thank you so much for being here, friend. I hope you have a fantastic day.